Hi, hello and welcome to yet another video. Now, let me put forward a question before all of you. Close your eyes and think of a friend who helps you. Okay? Now, I have another question. Think of a friend who helps you the most. Will the answer be the same for both of these questions? When I ask you to think of a friend who helps you, maybe different names can come to your mind. But when I add on the word most, it just narrows down to one person. Isn't it so? Yes, this situation we come across in our OET listening. And these words like most, least, main, these are some of the words which are often overlooked by students. They don't take it into consideration as a keyword. They mainly focus on words like friends, help, and just neglect that most or least part. Now, this brings a huge difference when it comes to multiple choice questions, wherein you can have only one right answer. So here I'm providing you some examples to illustrate this scenario. So let's begin. Now, on screen you can see a question from part B.
Question 25. You hear a nurse talking to a patient who's about to have a mammogram. Now read the question.
So, have you had a mammogram before?
No, I haven't, and I do have a few questions actually. Like, what about the radiation? Do I need to worry about the dose? Is it likely to be harmful in any way?
No, it's very low. In fact, it's similar to the amount you'd receive if you took a long-haul flight.
Oh, yes, that reminds me. When will I hear? 'Cause I'm away in New Zealand for a month from next Wednesday, and I'd like to know as soon as possible.
It'll take about 2 weeks, but if you're concerned, we can give you a number to call.
Oh, thanks. That'll be a real help, actually. Then, for me, the big question is it going to hurt? I've been hearing gruesome stories from friends, and my anxiety levels are going through the roof.
Okay, I understand. Perhaps you could tell me exactly what you've heard.
Okay, now that we have heard the audio, I think some of you might have guessed the right answer. What you would have noticed here is that the patient is expressing concern, or she has questions regarding all of these aspects, like when the results are available. She is saying that when can I hear, which means that she's asking when she can know about the results. Then like she's asking about radiation, which means she has a fear regarding the risks involved. And she is also asking, will it hurt, which means that whether it is painful or not. So all of these are her concerns or questions. Now our focus, so if we had just focused on the word concern, we would definitely be confused because all of these are expressed as concerns by the patient. Now, how can we decide the answer? The question asks for what is the main concern of the patient. I'll show you the transcript. So first, the patient is asking about the radiation. Do I need to worry about the dose? So she has a concern about the radiation. And the nurse gives explanation regarding that. No, it's very low, and okay, that part is done. Then her next concern was, or her next question was, when will I hear back? When will I hear back? I'm away in New Zealand for a month from next Wednesday, and I would like to know as soon as possible, which means that she wants to know about the result as soon as possible. That was another question, and the nurse gives reply for that as well. It'll take about 2 weeks, and that is addressed there. And then the patient begins. Okay, then for me the big question is, now this phrase or this usage, big questions, points us towards, or it points our attention towards this word main in the question. Now we have to be really vigilant, because here we understand that now the patient's main concern is coming up. What is she asking? Is it going to hurt? Which means that she's asking whether it will be painful or not. So we understand that the main concern of the patient is whether the procedure is going to be painful or not. And how did we understand that? We don't hear that like my main concern or my main worry is in the audio. Instead, what the patient is saying is that the big question for me, the big question is, which means that like I've asked you multiple questions, but the big question from my end is that whether it's going to hurt or whether it's going to be painful. So I hope you have understood how the word main from the question has helped you in deciding the right option. So the right option here is option C. Now let's look at another example. You can see a question, again a question from part B on the screen. And here you hear a GP talking to a patient with hay fever. What's making the patient most miserable? Again, you can see the word most miserable. Maybe we don't know, the patient might be expressing different factors which is making him or her uncomfortable, but our focus is that what is making the patient most miserable. Actually, this miserable is also a keyword, of course, but at the same time, you should give equal importance to the word most as well. Okay, let's start the audio.
Question 28. You hear a GP talking to a patient with hay fever. Now read the question.
How can I help you today?
I need something to help me manage my hay fever this summer. It's already become unbearable. I don't want to have to stay indoors when all my mates are out enjoying the good weather. We're all off camping next weekend, and I'd hate to miss out on that.
What's bothering you in particular? Perhaps I can give you something to make you more comfortable.
Well, I keep getting this horrible headache thing. It's like at the top of my nose, and it's really getting me down, to be honest. Then there are the watery eyes. I mean, I can feel them puffing up as soon as I leave the house. They're so itchy, red and painful and look awful. I've got a summer job working at music festivals, so there's no escaping. I'm literally in fields all day, every day. Is there something you can give me?
So here also you would have heard the words from all the three options. Now, like option B, I think you could have easily eliminated it, because option B says that, as per the question says, what is making the patient most miserable? And if we opt for option B, it conveys the meaning that what is the thing that is making the patient most miserable is the attitude of her friends. But she's not mentioning about the attitude of her friends. She's just mentioning about her friends, like her friends would all be camping. She's just telling the situation. I'll show the transcript. Okay. The GP starts off by asking, how can I help you? The patient says that I need something to help me manage my hay fever this summer. It's already become unbearable. I don't want to stay indoors when all my mates, so she's mentioning about her friends there, when all my friends are out enjoying the good weather. We are all off camping next weekend, and I would hate to miss out that. So she just says that she's planning for a camping with all of her friends, and she doesn't want to miss that because of this hay fever. So she's just expressing her situation, that like she's just making it clear that I don't want to miss that camp because of this hay fever. But it has no connection with option B, which says about the attitude of her friends. It's not being mentioned in the audio, so option B can be ruled out. Then the GP is asking, what is bothering you in particular? So in particular means they are asking about, the GP is asking about something specific. So we can relate it to most in a way, because in particular, okay, there might be a lot of concerns that you're having. Out of that, in specific, what is bothering you, or what the patient is finding it as miserable. So here, let's look at more closely. And the GP says that, what is bothering you in particular? Perhaps I can give you something to make you more comfortable. Then the patient says, well, I keep getting this horrible headache thing. It's like at the top of my nose and it's really getting me down, to be honest. Then there are watery eyes. I can feel them puffing up as soon as I leave the house. They're itchy, red, painful. I look awful. So she's describing the symptoms that she has. So you can match it to option A. So option A, which says that what the patient considers as most miserable is the intensity of the symptoms, and when the GP asks what is bothering you in particular, she gives a description of the symptoms. She says that it's itchy, red, painful, awful, watery. She mentions a lot of symptoms. Now regarding, so we can consider that option A is the right answer for now, and let's ensure that we are not getting any clue that option C might be the right answer. So what are we hearing after this is that I've got a summer job, which means that she's mentioning about a job working at music festivals. So there's no escaping. I'm literally in fields all day, every day. Is there something you can give me? So she's just mentions about her work, like I have got a summer job and I can't escape from this. So I need some way to get out of it. So here also she's just mentioning about her work. She's not talking about how it's going to affect her work, how this condition or how this hay fever is going to affect her work. She just says that like, I have got a summer job working at music festivals, so there's no escaping, I have to be there. And she's not talking about how this hay fever is going to impact her work, just mentioning the work. So we can very confidently decide that option A is the right answer, the answer which the patient gives when the GP asks what is bothering you in particular, because we have this word most here, specific. Okay, now let's try a couple of other questions from part C. Here you can see is a question from part C. You will hear an interview with a midwife called Christina Mallow, who is talking about the time she spent working as a volunteer in South Sudan. And what you need to find out here is that when she was thinking of applying to go to South Sudan, Christina was most concerned about. So you have to find the concern that Christina had the most while she was thinking of applying to go to South Sudan. So here also you can see the word most in the question. Now I'll make you listen to the audio and then let's figure out what the right answer here. And now let me remind you that the presence of the word most does not mean that like that is the only keyword that you should be focusing. No, along with the other keywords, most should also be taken into account. Okay, I'll just play the audio. So during that 90 seconds of preparation time, let's quickly identify the keywords from the options as well.
Today we're talking to Christina Morello, who's recently returned from South Sudan, where she was working as a volunteer midwife in a field hospital. Christina, could you tell us why you wanted to go and how you felt?
Well, I first arrived at the decision because I was dead set on making a difference to people who had nobody to turn to in desperate times. And, to be honest, from a selfish point of view, I naively thought it would be an adventure. I was just worried that the charities wouldn't need midwives. You always hear about the huge demand for nurses, and my experience lies in delivering babies. My parents, on the other hand, were terrified. They understood the risks better than me and realised that I could be working in very dangerous settings and that I hadn't properly prepared myself. They also warned me about homesickness and being away from my family for so long, Something I hadn't really considered until they brought it up.
So, was your role in Sudan very different to the one you'd been doing in the UK before you left?
Okay, so were you able to find the right answer? I think this was pretty much easy. Here, the healthcare professional, Christina, says that like when she planned of going to Sudan, her the only worry, she says that I was just worried about, which means that she's talking about her concern that whether her skills would be required there in that place, because she is a midwife and she has generally heard about the demand for nurses there, but she's just a midwife. So she is concerned whether her skill sets might be of requirement in that place. Now, that is the only concern that Christina had, only worry that Christina had. And you can hear the mentioning of other two options like possible loss of a home and family, that is mentioned as homesickness, and also about the dangerous situation. But these two concerns are raised by her parents. For that reason, even without, here we don't need this most keyword to find the answer, because it's not from a group of concerns that you have to pick the most significant one. No, here the healthcare professional, that is Christina, has only one concern, and so that itself is the answer. For clarity, I can show the transcript. She says that, well, I first arrived at the decision because I was dead set on making a difference to people who had nobody to turn to it in desperate times. And to be honest, from a selfish point of view, I naively thought it would be an adventure. I was just worried, which means that this was the only worry that she had. I was just worried that the charities wouldn't need midwives. You always hear about the huge demand for nurses, and my experience lies in delivering babies. So she was concerned whether her skills would match the requirement there. Then she talks about her parents. My parents, on the other hand. Now she's talking about the concerns that her parents had. Were terrified. They understood the risk better than me and realized that I could be working in very dangerous setting. So that might actually, have this students to get inclined towards option C. And then she also says that they also warned me about homesickness and being away from my family for so long. So that again has a pointer towards option A. But you need to understand is that these two are the concerns. Sorry, not option A, option B. Option B and option C are the concerns raised by her parents. So for that reason, option B and option C can be eliminated and A is the right answer. Now let's look at one more question, again from part C. So the question says that, in Christina's opinion, what is the most valuable skill for a midwife working in the South Sudan? So in this question, you need to identify which, in Christina's opinion, as per Christina, which is the most valuable skill. Maybe we don't know, she might be talking about multiple skills, and what the question asks for is the most valuable skill in Christina's opinion. And what the options are. Option A says that being able to speak the local language. If the healthcare professional is able to speak the local language, then that is the most valuable asset or skill that will be useful there. Then option B says that taking a flexible approach to your work. Being flexible means being able to adapt to any kind of situation. If you have that flexibility at your work, then that will be the most important or valuable skill. And option C says that having a wide range of professional experience. If you have a wide range of experience or if your expertise is really good, then that is an advantage. So we need to find out whether we would be hearing all of these options and we have to actually pin down the right one, or else maybe just like in one of the previous questions that we have discussed, maybe the speaker would be talking about only one skill, we don't know. So let's listen to the audio and decide.
Safe and well. That was one of the happy endings.
It must have been quite a culture shock for you. What was most difficult for you to get used to?
I was in what's called a medium risk placement, which meant that fairly strict rules applied, and that took some getting used to. We weren't allowed to leave the hospital complex after nightfall, which was strange, but not too much of a problem, as I was usually only fit to have dinner and fall into bed anyway. The worst thing was constantly feeling dirty and uncomfortable. There was no break from the heat and humidity, and we only had bucket showers and a limited water supply. Oh, the bugs didn't help matters. They really added to the discomfort, and everybody always had something or other to complain or worry about. A sting, a bite, an itch or a rash.
Yeah. So what qualities would you say are the most valuable for anyone who is thinking of volunteering?
Obviously, you can't apply unless you have all the qualifications, experience and skills that they're asking for. That's a given.
Right.
Language skills are a huge bonus. If you've even the most basic grasp of the local language, it'll get you out of all sorts of tricky situations. But what you really need is the ability to cope with the unexpected and be up for anything. When you're working in such extreme conditions, your team's the only thing that keeps you going. So if you put up obstacles, you'll cause more problems than you solve.
Okay, now that I think this was also easy. Here you can see all the three options being mentioned because the speaker, Christina, has the opinion that like all of these skills are useful, but she's saying you can see a contrast there. But what you really need is this flexible approach. I'll show the transcript. Now the interviewer is clearly asking this question. So what qualities would you say are the most valuable so that you can match it to most valuable skill? Instead of skill, what you hear in the audio is qualities for anyone who's thinking of volunteering. Now Christina starts speaking. She says, obviously you can't apply unless you have all the qualifications, experience and skills that they're asking for, which means that that is one of the skills that is necessary. She's talking about professional experience. So that is something to be considered, but we have not heard the word most or main, but of course she mentions it as a skill. Now let's listen further. Then she says that language skills are a huge bonus. So that is also, she talks about language. Knowing the local language is also a bonus or added advantage. What she says is that if you have even the most basic grasp of the local language, it will get you out of all sorts of tricky situations, which means that knowing the local language is also an advantage or a skill that can help you. So this can also be put on hold. Let's put it on hold. And then a contrast. How is it indicated? But, which means that like she has talked about two skills which are required. Now she's going to tell something which is contrasting, or she's going to emphasize something there by saying that but what you really need is, which means that the most important thing, even though the two aspects which she has mentioned regarding the qualification and experience and all those things, plus the knowing the local language, they are important, but what is really important or what is most important is the ability to cope with the unexpected. Now, the ability to cope with unexpected has been paraphrased into flexibility, which you can see here. So, we understand that even though like the other two options are being heard, the mentioning of these words, what you really need, should be matched against the most valuable, and then for that reason we can confirm that option B is the right answer. Again, you should have noticed here like you're not hearing the word flexible approach to your work. Instead, what you're hearing is that ability to cope with the unexpected and be up for something. It indicates flexibility. Okay, so I hope that you will take into account these minor aspects which you might feel it as silly and sometimes students overlook, but actually it can cost your scores. So hope you found this video helpful, and we'll be right back with more such videos. Stay tuned.
Medcity International Academy. Trusted hands forever.